Have you ever wondered where the idea of white people actually came from? It might seem like a simple biological fact, but history tells a much more complicated and deliberate story. Let's travel back to Colonial America, a place of immense opportunity but also brutal exploitation. In the early days, the lines weren't drawn by race as we know it today. The key distinctions were things like nationality, religion, and social class. You were English or Irish, Christian or not, a landowner or an indentured servant. But in the late 17th century, something started to shift. European plantation owners, the wealthy elite, were facing a serious problem. They relied on a massive labor force made up of both poor colonial European indentured servants and enslaved Africans. And these two groups, united by their shared poverty and oppression, were starting to realize they had more in common with each other than with the wealthy landowners. Events like Bacon's Rebellion in 1676 terrified the ruling class. It was a messy, violent uprising where poor whites and blacks fought side by side against the colonial governor. The elite saw the terrifying potential for a full-scale revolution that could shatter their power. They needed a way to divide and conquer to ensure this kind of alliance would never happen again. So they invented a new idea, a powerful social technology, the concept of white. Starting around 1671, you begin to see a change in legal documents. The term Christian, or English, started being replaced with a new legal category, white. This wasn't just a change in words, it was a fundamental restructuring of society. This new white category was created to give special privileges, rights, and a sense of superiority to all European colonists, no matter how poor. Suddenly, a poor, landless farmer from England was legally and socially elevated above any person of African descent. Their shared European ancestry became a new, unifying identity that was more important than their shared economic hardship with enslaved Africans. This new identity gave them a stake in the system, even if they were at the very bottom of the social ladder. Their loyalty shifted from fellow poor workers to wealthy landowners, all because of the tempting perks that came with the title of white. Meanwhile, the status of Africans was simultaneously and deliberately degraded. Laws were passed that locked them and their children into permanent hereditary slavery. They were stripped of basic human rights and defined not as people, but as property. Creating white meant making black, too, setting up a harsh racial caste system that is still present centuries later. It's fascinating to realize that the European aristocrats back in Europe didn't see themselves as white. A duke in France wouldn't have identified with a colonial merchant as being fellow whites. Their identity was tied to their noble bloodline, their family name, their nationality, not a broad racial category in a newly formed caste system. The idea of a white identity was a uniquely European elite invention, born out of a pragmatic and ruthless need to maintain control, exploit, and profit from free labor. Capitalism. This caste system is incredibly effective, then and now. By creating this racial wedge, the colonizing elite divided the working class and secured their own power and wealth. The poorest European colonial servants were encouraged to see themselves as superior to the most skilled and any enslaved African. And this is just the beginning. Subjected to greed, hate, and violent influence, the so-called black and white feed the caste system that exploits them both. This invention of whiteness wasn't just an accident of history. It was a deliberate tool of social engineering designed to build a society based on racial class and division. Knowing this history is key since race isn't a real thing, just a social idea that has real effects on our world today. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into history. If you found this fascinating and want to learn more about the hidden forces that have shaped our society, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. We'll see you in the next one.